my dashboard, I got stuck to a place where I was trying to set up my post search, but when I went and put the base search and then run it, the second panel that has to show the stat count, it won't populate any number.
Okay. Share your screen. We'll have you.
Let me see.
Let's make you a host.
Let it up. Other stuff.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Are you able to share?
Hold on, I'm trying to look for the building. Okay.
All right. For those joining, Elaine was trying to do a dashboard. I guess he was trying to do a base and a post process. So he was having some issues. So going through that quickly.
So after, here's a query I put, I did like the stat count. I mean, yes, what I did.
Okay.
Keeps creating
Does anyone know what the issue could be for Elaine? So how would you troubleshoot this, Elaine?
What I did, I went back to my search and
does anyone know how to troubleshoot this? So a customer says, I have a post-process search that's not working. How would you troubleshoot this? Okay, start at ground zero. Cancel this. No, just cancel. All right, and then cancel at the top.
yeah.
No, cancel.
Cancel.
Okay. So what isn't working for you?
The one's not working?
Yeah, what's not working for you? The bottom panel, right?
Yeah, the bottom panel.
Okay.
It was supposed to give me the stat count.
Okay. So if a panel is not working for you, the number one thing to always do is open it up in a new search. So let's open this panel up in a new search.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we see here, it gives you your original search before, and then it does the stats count, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did I say last time was like an issue with in what format does a dashboard run in? In what mode?
Format.
Does anyone remember what mode a dashboard runs in?
Global.
I think it's verbose.
The exact opposite.
Is it smart mode?
So not that one. So which one is left?
The global?
No, so it's smart verbose and what's the other one? Ah, crap. I forgot.
Fast mode.
Yep, fast mode.
Fast mode, yeah.
All right. So what does fast mode not give you?
Fast mode don't give me all the events as it failed.
It doesn't give you all the events.
Yeah.
Well,
Just 30%.
so let's do this. So take away stats count, the pipe stats count. All right. So run this search for 15 minutes. Let's notice some key differences here. 15 minutes at the top right. So it's very this is very important to this is a very important subject we're talking about, because this can help you get jobs and help you to do your job better also for those who already work in the Splunk. Smart mode right here, basically, if you see right there underneath your last 15 minutes, if you scroll down just a little bit. No. Where you just search, just move your arrow down just slightly.
Yeah.
To the right. So under last 15 minutes.
To the right.
Last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right underneath that. You see that underneath that? Yep. Smart mode. All right. So smart mode. So you see here it says smart mode field discovery on for event searches, no event or field data for stat searches.
Yeah.
Right? So this basically gives you, when your events populate and 20% or more of your data, your fields would basically be populated. So what that means is, if you go to the right over here, all the way to the left, not you right. If you go to the left, all the way there, and click on the fields, account ID.
ID.
So the other thing to notate on, let me explain this a little bit more then. So selected fields. So if you scroll, not scroll, but move your mouse to the left over here. The selected fields are the fields that you say, I want to see these fields as my selected fields. These are the fields that I need to see every time I come to this screen. So you can modify this to be a lot more fields, or you can take away fields from here. So you have the option to do that. And the way to modify that is you can click all fields there. You'll click that. And then let's say you click desks. So click desk. And then click out of that. X at the top right over there. So now you see desk is added to the top there, right? In the selected fields, right?
Yeah.
So selected fields basically says, hey, I want to have this to be a selected field for me by default. Whenever you show me stuff, this field, if it's in my events, it needs to populate. So if that field is not here, it doesn't populate for you. It's only when it's there that's going to populate for you.
So this just helps you to, if you want to pick up certain things out of the event, like you just come and do your selected field.
Right. Yeah. So it picks out the specific fields that you want to see.
Okay.
Yep. And then interesting fields are at the bottom. So one thing you'll notice there is everything is in alphabetical order. So if somebody asks you, look for a field for me, and they say, look for a field called Elaine, where would you expect Elaine to be?
A?
Elaine. So a field called Elaine, where would you expect that field to be?
Yeah, to be at the top, but since you said alphabetically, so.
Yep. So it's alphabetical order, so it's going to be at the top. So whenever somebody says select a field, don't start, scrolling left and right. Just literally go down based upon like the alphabetical, letters, and see if that field is there. And if you don't see it, more than likely that field is not present in your interesting fields. Your interesting fields are what your modes are based off of. So in fast mode, so we're not going to click fast mode right now, but if we were to click fast mode, you'll only see a few interesting fields. And most of those may be actually selected or default fields depending on how you've already, pre-selected your fields. Whereas smart mode, it gets 20% or more of your fields. So for instance, if you click account ID, what it says is there's one value for account ID, but this appears in 100% of your events. So you see that right there?
Yeah.
One value appears in 100% of your events. So then click node path for me. It's another field, node path. Yep. So then you see this, right? So it's another field, but it has 16 different values, but it appears 100% of your events. So, this is why we have this here. So if you click all fields to the top, all fields at the top. Yep, right there. What you'll see is it gives you the percentage over on the right side, event coverage, what's the percentage that these events actually occur, not these events, but these fields actually occur in your events. So what I mean is, if you look at your events, your data, in each of your dropdown, do these fields appear in there? So when you see 100%, means that in every event that you see there, 100% of the time, you're going to see this field extracted. If you keep going down, you'll see, okay, 10%, some are 6%, some are or less. So the ones which are less, you typically won't see unless you manipulate the code or whatever to be able to give you that. But anything that's above 20% is going to be rendered for you here. So if you X out of here, see color, and I see due to indicator. So, okay, so X out of here. Let's see, I think color is one. So click color. The field color. All right. So we see here, there's two values that appear in 100% of your events. But then what we also see is that in the all fields tab, so click all fields again. You were just there, yep. And then if you click the drop down next to color, it gives you that same thing that you'll see there, and then you see the 100% there, right? And then if you go down to your the next field underneath that, due to indicator, you'll see that this only appears 6.25% of your events. That's not much. So this is not going to populate for you by default. It's not going to be there for you by default. So this is where Splunk sort of gets its secret sauce in terms of what events to populate for you and what events not to populate for you. And there's sometimes where you have just, I've seen it, and I don't know exactly why it does this, but where you have events that aren't necessarily a big totality of your, or fields rather, they're not a big totality of your events, meaning that, let's say a field that's populated maybe in like 3% or 4% of your events, it may show up depending on the number of data sources that are there. So if you only have like 10 events and you have a field that's populated on one of those events, that may still show up if it's running smart mode. And I've seen it happen. I'm not sure exactly why that happens, but it may be just because the limited amount of events, that's why it populates for you. It may be another algorithm or variable that I'm not sure of, but that's also something to notate. But typically when you have hundreds and hundreds of millions of events, Splunk is not going to automatically give all of these to you on the screen because it's going to say that's too much. I can't give you every single freaking field that's in here because it's just going to overwhelm not only me, but probably you as well. So X out of this now. Does this make sense? Does everybody understand at least smart mode? It needs to be in 20% of your events or more.
So it needs to be 20% and above for Splunk to automatically.
Well, 20% of your events
Yeah.
Yep. Or more.
And if it's below, you have to manipulate some codes in order to go.
Well, if it's below, you don't manipulate the codes. It's just that you have to go select it. You're not changing any code or anything like that here. It's just more of I need to go select it to say, hey, show me this field if you see it. That's all you're saying. The part about manipulating the code is if you want Splunk to give you all the events, regardless of whether smart mode, verbose mode, or fast mode is selected.
Mm.
All right. So I hope that makes sense. Any questions about that? All right. So if you scroll up, then
Okay.
scroll up. And then if you click up. If you click fast mode, take a note of the fields that we have here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the limited fields that we have here. You only have basically by default what Splunk typically extracts. So you have host, source type. It gives you the bare minimum so that Splunk can run as fast as possible. That's the benefit of fast mode. And fast mode is the way that your dashboards work. By default, Splunk made it so that your dashboards run in fast mode.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that you'll notice about fast mode is that it doesn't populate all your fields automatically. So when you do that in a dashboard and you try to get, for instance, you're trying to get a count, right? But if you look on the left side, there's no count field here. There's nothing there for you to have. So it's not going to populate that for you. Mm-hmm. So the way to do that is in here, you would do table star, pipe, and then table star. So run that. Nope, just table star. No, table space star. So what you're saying is, I want you to table everything that you have for me and run this command. I want you to table everything that you have for me, including all of the fields. So remember how we looked at the previous screen that there was only like 6 fields that were populated, right?
Yeah.
But then if you look on this screen, almost every field right here is populated. Matter of fact, every field does get populated as long as it's seen by Splunk. So every field here gets populated. So, you have your account ID, vendor, app, color, whatever. You have all these different fields that get populated. So in order for your dashboard to see all your fields, you need to do this if you're doing a base search. Your base search needs to have a pipe, table, star for it to work. So that's what you're missing in your dashboard.
So instead of using stack, I was supposed to use table star.
No. Your base search. Your base search.
Base search. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So copy that and put that in your base search.
Base search. Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah, it worked.
Okay.
Oh, so I always have to add like a table star to my base search to have it later.
Yep. And that's because your dashboard innately runs in fast mode.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about this from anyone?
Nice. Sweet.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Elaine. I'll take control now.
Thank you.
Let me share the screen. We can get started. All right. All right. So, all right, there's meeting controls. All right, so let's review a few things. So if I wanted to make an app for a customer says, I need you to create an app for me. How would I do that? Anyone?
What's the question again?
Customer says, I need you to make an app for me.
Make an app from? Either you go to your app management and go click create.
So guide me. Where would I go?
I'll go to app management to my top left of my,
Where's that management?
to all apps. Sorry, all apps to that's the top left
Where do you see all apps?
where you have the search and reporting app.
So tell me exactly where to click on the screen.
Okay, click on where you see Splunk Enterprise apps.
This one?
Apps on where you see apps equals to Sierra Leone data. Yeah, click there.
Okay, so I just want you to know these are two different redirects. So this one will take you to basically wherever you set as your home page, whatever. Whereas this one is just a drop down of like all your apps.
Yeah. So I'll go to app management, manage apps.
Okay, manage apps.
And then we go to create app to your top right.
Okay.
And then you go ahead to create your app given the name of the app if you want to use.
Okay, awesome. All right, that's all. Yep, good. All right, just something to remember how to create that. All right, so we know how to create an app. All right, so what's the difference between an app and an add-on?
The add-on had a pre-configured app.
I can't hear you.
The app has a GUI, and why an add-on doesn't.
Okay, so this is Palo Alto Networks add-on. And this one has a GUI.
So an app helps you with visualizations, and it's an app where you get all the dashboard stuff and visualization, while the add-on helps you with
yeah, you're close. You're close. Anyone want to help him out?
Someone help me.
So, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I thought someone was about to say something. But okay, so an add-on allows you to bring in data and also allows you to parse the data. So separate it and do whatever configurations you want to do with it. whereas an app allows you to look at it for visualization purposes and creating dashboards and all that other stuff. So add-ons typically aren't meant for you to do dashboards and stuff. It's only to parse your data and to bring the data in. Add-ons do have GUIs. A lot of it are set up so that you can configure the add-on. It's not necessarily set up so that you can, look at dashboards and all that stuff. It's just more so you can configure it. And an add-on typically would follow this convention, the name of whatever the vendor is, and it has add-on. So GitHub add-on, Palo Alto Networks add-on, Splunk add-on for AWS, Splunk add-on for Linux. Or you see PA. Hey, whoever that is, can you mute? Or you'll see, something TA for whatever. So TA for Tenable, TA for something else. So this one, Tenable add-on for Splunk. I think on the back end is like TA for something Tenable, something like that, or Splunk Tenable. So
I had a question, sir.
Sure.
So I've seen SA. I think that's supportive add-on. Is
Yep.
what's the difference between the TA and the SA?
Yeah, so SA is more so for it's like a specialized add-on that helps you to augment like a specific component of Splunk. So for instance, like the SIM validator is built for enterprise security, but you can use that also separately for other use cases as well. So you have like the SA investigator, which is another one. And then you have the DA as well. I forget what DA stands for, but that's another one. That's another one where you are able to, utilize what do you call it? Certs, utilize other like configurations that do modular inputs and stuff like that. And I think this is the thing that has it. So you see here it says DA domain add-on, and then SA, I think it's security. Yeah, security add-on. So this one would have, sometimes correlation searches and other things like that. It's more specific to a component of Splunk. So enterprise security, for instance, has a lot of SA and DA stuff, whereas core Splunk does not have a lot of that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can sometimes use that though for both.
Okay.
And let me see if I can get a prime example. Let me see. Yeah, so here, so this is ES vocabulary that they use. Fields, tags, and then SA security add-on searches and correlation logic. So if you see a lot of those correlation searches, a lot of your SAs do a lot of that stuff. And then the domain, like add-on for dashboards. So even that, this one can honestly exist in the TA. I'm not even sure why they created this, but it is what it is. We all know what macros are. If we don't, macros are basically a way for you to shortcut a Splunk search, and we could probably do a macro today so you guys can see how that works. All right, so that's that. And let me post this in case anyone wants to grab this. In case anyone wants to go there. All right, so that's that. All right, let's go now back to here. All right, and then on here, on the manage apps screen, this actually is an input that goes directly to Splunk base. So you have to have internet access for this to be able to query Splunk base. So let me see if it'll show us. So if we do this, then let's do, I think I can look at it from here and inspect this element. So I'll browse more apps, and then let's and browse. There is of course, a hyperlink that allows you to go directly to Splunk to be able to query um, query for apps. So if you don't have internet access, then of course that's not going to work. And then if another thing is there's base certs that come with your Splunk installation. If for some reason that's modified or that's made different, and then that's not updated with the server certs, when it tries to check in with Splunk, Splunk will complain. It will say, hey, my certs, have been modified, and something needs to happen about that in order for me to be able to go back and query Splunk, and Splunk can know who I am. Because Splunk identifies each component based upon the search that's there, and if it thinks that it's being spoofed or something like that, it's going to decline it, and you need to make it sync across. We're not going to get into like doing certs on the back end and stuff because that's not part of this class, but that's just something to notate there. To check a cert on the front end, you can click like the little box here. You can show the certificate. Then you can see like the trust that's there. So this is like a cert that I created for myself, like my own self-signed. See GA, and you can see the organization, and of course my stuff here. This is self-signed. This is not going to be trusted by most of your browsers because you'll see that it's not secure. But I basically self-signed and basically used the hashing algorithms provided to me through just generic Linux and OpenSSL. So yeah, in other sites, if you click their certificates, you'll see a whole bunch of other stuff that you won't see with mine. And their stuff is, certified legit and all that other stuff. But I don't have money for that. And well, I do, but I'm not going to pay for that. Yeah, that's just why I decided not to do it that way. And most of the stuff here is not really that sensitive anyway. So, and if you really want to try to hack the account, outside of this, that's why we do LDAP, so that someone can now just brute force people's passwords in here. That stuff is stored in a sort of third-party source using a AD directory to be able to give you guys access to that. So you'll see that oftentimes that you may see base certs that don't really matter, but a lot of that stuff is stored on maybe a SAML server or an LDAP server that's able to, or AD server that's able to authenticate. All right. I think I've exhausted this page. So, okay, let's go to macros. All right, so macros are under settings, advanced search. Then you go to search macros. And then in here, you'll see all the macros that are already generated for you. So what this means here is that there's a name called macro, or there's a name of the macro is called mm_es_gen. And it has one option, one variable that you can pass into it. So if we click into here, you'll see that in here, there's an argument that's passed into it, there's type. So it's basically, you can pass that field into it so that it can give you values based on that.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming.
All right, so basically you can see, sorry, let me minimize this thing again. So you can see in this, don't worry about the search might be not necessarily crazy, but it might be just different. So it just looks like a if statement, and then if it's null, then do something here, just put null, and then if not, do autofocus. So this it's pretty self-explanatory, but what they're doing here is they are creating indicators, and then inside that indicators is the type of indicator that gets passed into it, and then based upon that type that's passed into it, it does an evaluation for a whole bunch of other things that happens there. So we can create a macro in here. Let's see if we can get ours working. So we'll create a macro. We'll put it inside of front-end app. So the macro name, typically you want it to be something that makes sense. And it has to have also the number of variables that it's using, so, or arguments. So you see here it says my macro and then 2, so then you can pass 2 arguments into it that will be in there. All right, so in this one, we'll do, let me see, let's do SAR. Let me see, something that'll make sense. Well, let's do base first. Let me show you guys how it works first. Let's do search index. Let's see. All right, so search index. So the definition, yeah, we'll do just search index. Then in here, we'll just do a generic definition. All right, so we'll do index equals main. Yeah, we'll just do that, just a generic one initially. Let's set that, and let's make this all apps for right now. And everyone can read, everyone can write right here. All right, so we set a generic one right now. All right, so let's go to duplicate this tab. And we're just gonna go open this up in a search. So if we do, you're going to call a macro, you have to do a tick mark, which basically is it's a backtick. It's going to be the symbol that's before your number 1. So it's this symbol right here. That's how it's called. So I think, what do we call, like search underscore index? That's what we called it. Then, so if we do that, and then we run this, so then it runs index equals main. And the way that you can tell that that's run is you can do Command Shift E. I can do it here. So then if you expound that, it'll be Command Shift and E. Then it tells you what the macro is doing there. Any questions about that so far? So if we want to make it a little bit more complex, we're going to do a stats count where not where, stats count by source type, eval, country equals, say if source type equals sharing my own stuff. Source, it is not that. Let's do top values. I'm trying to find that source type that I have. Maximo, nope, generic. Darn it, what was it? Okay, all right, whatever. We'll just pick a source type. We'll just say if source type equals one event log, then we'll change that. We'll call it criticality. If I spelled that right. So say source type equals one event log, and then do 1. Otherwise, we need to put this in quotations. Otherwise, do 0. All right, then let's save that. Let's see if we run this now again. So then you see we run that, and then we see the criticality over here now. We said if this source type equals win event log, do a criticality by 1. So then we can do an additional compound on top of this now and say stats count by criticality. Well, let's do chart count by criticality. Let's do type by criticality. All right, so let's do this. So now we go to visualizations and let's do maybe a bar chart. Not really pretty. I don't think that, I don't like that one. Let's do, so zeros and ones, and then you can see here the difference. There's only one criticality that we see on the dashboard. If we were to make this into trellis, it'd probably be a little bit prettier. Where are you at? My win event log. Doesn't give me the option. I like it with that one. Let me see if we did independence. Still same thing. No, I wanted to show me the colors like it does here. So, but anyway, this is just showing you that as you are creating your definition over here, you can do like a whole bunch of other stuff in here that can be very valuable. So we'll do one more example quickly, and then we'll try to turn it up a little bit. All right, so let's look for win event logs, right? So we'll do this, and then let's see if we can find some IPs in here. IP. So let's do this. Let's make sure we grab source type equals win event log. And then you see once I click that, it basically made me rerun the search, but it stripped away my macro. And this is where you can start nesting macros and do arguments and stuff. That would be very helpful. All right, so we're looking for just an IP in here somewhere. So let's see if our source is here. Source user, subject, is there a destination maybe? Destination, NT host, domain, desk personnel, category. No, we actually want an IP. So I'm looking for, so not user. Close, we're looking at a lot of your data, so hope you don't mind. Process, no. We may not be able to find it in these events. Yeah, so we might have to look at a different event to grab that. All right, so let's do this. Let's do data type equals source types, index, so URCE, TY, that's why. All right, always spelling error. I was never good at spelling. Actually, I actually was. Not sure what happened. All right, so we're looking for a source type which we can use, configuration too small. So a lot of these too small stuff is because people are onboarding stuff typically that Splunk cannot categorize, or they haven't categorized themselves. So that's why it gives you a lot of this stuff. Say too small, hey, can't read. So we just need to find some IPs. Come on. All right, so let's go back. Oh, access, we'll have it. So tstats count where index equals star and source type equals star by index. So nothing with the last 24 hours, 7 days, maybe. Nope. 30 days. Nope. What about within the last year? Should have something in access somewhere. Oh, that's why. I spelled access wrong. Of course you won't have nothing. Let's go 30 days again. There we go. So Clovis has something and Elaine has something. So we'll use my CloudTrail logs. So we'll view events. I won't work this way, but since we're using tstats, that's why. Open CloudTrail. Then so open back CloudTrail. So we got some CloudTrail logs, and I should have some IPs somewhere here. So, all right, bots, shares videos. Is there anything interesting here? Oh, it's like my family videos. I uploaded my family videos in S3. Okay, so I have an IP here we can look at. All right, this is fine. We can use these. This is my router, so I already know it's gonna point back to me. So this is fine. So what we'll do is we'll manipulate this definition over here. Let's see if we can get it to work well. So we'll do index equals, we'll say, let's try this. We'll do index. Then we'll do index. Then, all right, so let's save that. Oh, shoot, I forgot. So when you're creating your macro, that's the thing that sucks because we didn't provide an argument initially. So it's complaining about that. It says, hey, bro, you didn't, when you said search underscore index, you didn't provide me an argument before. So why are you trying to do that now? So we will have to rewrite that for that to work. So for instance, like that's the thing that sucks with macros. You have to go back and like basically reformat it for that to work for you. So you can see here, whatever. So you see it has the types and then it has a type here. So you would basically specify the type. Oh, I think I surrounded that token accidentally too. So, all right, so let's do that again. This should be in front end app. So we're going to basically copy this. Actually, we don't even care about this. You guys already see how this works. I'm going to delete this guy right here. So we're going to create a new guy now. We're going to say search underscore index, and then we're going to do that as an argument that's going to have one argument in it. So in here, we're going to do index equals to index, and then index here. Yeah, so this should be good. So let's run that. Let's give that a shot. Same thing. Let's modify these permissions. Read, and read, write. There we go. All right, so let's try to run this one now. So we're going to say search underscore index. If we run that, it should complain. Macron is going to be, and it gives us nothing, right? Because we basically said index equals 1. That's what we've placed in here. So in here, we've said that the search index comes with one argument. And in here, my one argument that I'm putting here is 1. we actually have to put the name of the argument that we want in here. So in this case, you guys would know that since we looked at OpenPath CloudTrail, it would be OpenPath CloudTrail. So once I run that now, it gives me events in the OpenPath CloudTrail because now I'm passing that argument inside of here as what I want that to be. Does that make sense so far? Sorry guys, give me just a second, just responding to this. Okay, looks like you guys are all getting this easy. That's what I'm talking about. This is easy for y'all. All right, so let's look at another example that we can grab out of here. So let's look at which one. We want to see one that has like 5 or multiple. Let's do all. So here's one. So this one has like the field name that it passes through. And as you look at this now, it should start becoming a lot more intuitive, right? So the first field that they're passing to is the actual field name. And the second one that they're doing is they're doing a count field for that. So in here, append, make results, eval, field name equals initial access, and then they count the field 0, and then it keeps doing like iterations of that with appends. So as you look through this, don't get like, super, cross-eyed by what you see here. If you don't understand this, you may want to run this like separately and see what it's doing. But the main thing, just understand how the macros and the values work here. So that's one. I want to look at one that's actually a little bit better. Ooh, dang, this one got 7. Okay, see what we've got going on in here. My Lord. So this one got an X, a Y, column 0, 0, column XO. So it does it's just a bunch of evals. And then for the color gradient, so which app is this one actually? So this might be an add-on. So this one is from, the 3D graph. So this one's for basically graphing. So that's how they basically do the bilinear interpolates color gradient. So that's how they do that. So oftentimes you'll see add-ons and visualizations use macros as well to be able to call these things. And then in enterprise security, for those who don't know what enterprise security is, it's basically like Splunk's premium app that they use for security investigations. So enterprise security. So if you go here on Splunk base, you can't download it unless you have entitlements for it, meaning that you have paid for it and that it belongs to you. This is what Splunk, a lot of Splunkers like to strive into, especially for your security. You'll be using enterprise security a lot because this is what makes Splunk a SIEM, which is security incident event management. So this basically allows you to be able to triage events and stuff like that, and be able to see what's going on as far as security settings are concerned. Enterprise security uses a TA called SASIM. And then do I have that installed here? Yeah, so SASIM is right here. So SASIM has a lot of macros that basically help to normalize your data. And if you don't remember what normalize means, it basically means to make your data the same across all different indexes. So user, underscore name equals to SAR is going to be the same thing in index equals, open path as user, capital U is the same thing in index equals, event gen. So it just tries to normalize all the different field names to be the same so that even if you search across the board, everything sort of like syncs across and makes sense. So SASIM uses a lot of these macros. So in order to fine tune your macros, what happens is if you look in here, if you go to settings, you click data models, you'll notice that a lot of these data models come with SASIM. So for instance, if we look at network traffic data model, this one by default has SIM network traffic indexes. That's the macro it uses. So if we were just to call on this macro, so if we were to run this search in here, right? So if we run this search over here, oopsies. Come on. Oopsies, not that. Did I not copy you? All right. Copy. Oh, crap. Copy. Paste. There we go. All right, there we go. All right, so we run this, right? And then let's expand it now. So basically all it does is uses something with tags. It doesn't specify index right now because there's no index that's really specified when you do SIM. So what it's going to do then, it's going to search across all your indexes that has tags of your data that has network or communicate. So a search across the last 30 days, any index that it finds that has that kind of data in it. So in order to restrict it, you would go into here, your macros, and this one's called SIM network traffic indexes. So if we want to restrict this, we would go into, let's go to the SASIM. So SASIM right here. Remember security add-on. So we'll go to network indexes. Where you at, buddy? Where you at? Where you at? I think it's this guy, right? Let's make sure. Network traffic, yeah. So network traffic indexes. So what we'll do then is, let's say we want to identify the definition of this. So what we'll say is, say index equals open path star. And we save that. So then once we run this search again, what it'll do now is, if we expand this, it now only focuses on open path star. The reason why that's important is when you have 10 billion plus events, if you know where your data resides, specify that in your macros. There's no need for you to do an index equals star, because that's essentially what you do when you create a macro that doesn't have any type of barriers to it. And the reason, you may ask, okay, why the heck would Splunk do that? It's because they don't know where your data is. So that's why they create something like this. They specifically tell you when you get enterprise security to tune your macros, because your macros are going to be searching all over the world. So that's why you need to tune them to be able to search exactly what needs to be searched. So that's one key term there that you'll face a lot in ES-based environments. So we'll do in the school index so that it searches all students' indexes. All right. Any questions about that? All right, so no questions. So, all right, let's continue on with our little fun macro that we're building. And we should.
Yeah, Prof, I have a question, but not regards to this. Clovis, can we, after this class, can we see join the next class that's coming to catch up? After this class, after we're done with this class, your next class will be coming up. Can we join it just to catch up? Because I think we need to take this class again, man.
Unfortunately, I'm actually taking a year off, man. My son is going to be born in my graduation in December, so I'm gonna take some time spent with the family, man.
Oh man, important.
Yeah, but I have some other resources that I'm gonna hopefully be able to pass to you. We have our I haven't talked to him about this yet, but we have a senior um, Splunk ninja in here by the name of Rufus Gillette. It's gonna be hopefully hosting like KV store stuff.
Ah!
So yeah, I'm gonna have some plans so at least you guys have some chances to specialize as well. That is gonna be paid since you're gonna it's gonna be somebody else's time. So but it will be specialization. So for instance, if you want to know more about KV store, how to specifically focus on KV store for like a week. If you want to know about like, just dashboarding for like a week, just straight dashboards or 2 weeks, whatever it is. I'll try to have somebody to be able to review that stuff. And then you can co-join that with what, I've already given you guys in this class. So it should be more rehashing than anything. Because Sunny's little, I'm going to delete this. There's a little macro in here called rich. Sunny's trying to be rich. All right. Questions. Looks like Tolu. Looks like you did a macro input lookup Tolu CSV. All right. Did you just do this, Tolu, or has this been a while?
It's been a while.
Okay. Do you know how this works now? Does this kind of bring back into memory how we did this last time?
I definitely need to review it again.
No problem. That's honest. Okay. Yeah, so the macros in here, literally, to think about it this way, what is this search? I think is what we call ours, right? Let me filter by me so it doesn't keep. All right, so yeah, search index. All right, so I created another one here called the performance. Okay, whatever. That one doesn't seem to have any arguments though. Right, so in here, we have this here. So we have, again, easiest way to call this macro is literally just do this. You go into here and you put a tick mark and then you run it this way. And then since it's an argument that's there, you're just gonna have to know the argument. Because I mean, if you create a macro, it'll just make sense that you know the argument. So in here, you'll do the index name. So let's say Tolu star. So then it'll search Tolu's index for the last 30 days. So if we go here to index, looks like a couple of Tolu indexes. So that's how we'll search that. So let's say we wanted to modify this a bit. Again, remember we've already created one, so we can't modify that anymore. So let's say we wanted to make multiple arguments. So let's do that. So let's do, again, put this in EF, there you go, front end. So we'll do same thing. We'll call this search underscore index. We'll do 3 here, 3 arguments. So these arguments will exist somewhere here. So we'll do index equals, and then we're gonna say index source type host. So we're gonna do index equals index, and then source type equals source type. It's going to be inside of a token. So and then host equals to host. All right. So we have that, and we're going to save that. And then let's make this permissions. All apps read. Right. It's fine. All right, so we have this over here. So search 3. So what we're going to do is run this here. So the first one we're going to say is Tolu's index. And then for source type, we're going to say CSV. And we're going to do another commas. And then we'll say for, you have a couple of hosts, we'll say Tolu. All right. So when I run this, I expand it, it literally tell me, so my first argument is Tolu. Second argument is CSV as a source type. It basically tries to rearrange it in a way that Splunk is going to process it. So it does host, index, and source type after that. And then it's my first argument, which is index, is the Tolu star that gets there. And then the host is Tolu, source type is CSV. So to look at that again, if you look at my arguments, it's literally saying I have 3 arguments in this macro, and the arguments are going to be listed inside here. So host, source, and source type. And then inside of here, my first argument is here, second argument's here, third argument's here, and that's how I'm listing that. So then you can now use that to basically put that in a comma separated format inside of your argument listings. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? All right. Cool. I hope this is making sense. No one's asking any questions. Oh. Tolu, I hope this is not, well, Tolu, is this data I should not be looking at? Sorry if I am. You want me to mask that, Tolu?
No, it's okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Sure. Saw a fort there. I was nervous. All right. So, all right. So do we have a gist of like how macros are supposed to be set up?
I have to go through the video again and get a better understanding.
Okay. And then if you wanted to use an eval based definition, you can as well. So that basically will say eval blah blah equals whatever. I don't use this often at all. So that's why I didn't give an example of it, but most people don't use like an eval based macro definition anyway. And then the validation expression or validation error message. So this is like if something needs to be a Boolean, or it needs to be it needs to be a string, it needs to be a number. You can run that, and then if it's not, you can say, "Hey, this does not exist," or what you've basically put in here is trash. So try again. And let me look at one of these examples here because that's not something I've had to do much, but we could probably find an example here, and I can explain that. So a lot of it is more so based on like if somebody puts in something that doesn't not necessarily doesn't compute, but it doesn't make sense. So if you say, hey, enter a number here, somebody puts in something that's not a number, it's going to complain about that. As you can see, not many people use the eval in that one, but let's see if we can find one. Let's see. Do classified process. Let's see. Let's see if the monitoring console usually has something that's more worthwhile. Monitoring console, where you at? There you go. So let's see what the monitoring console has. If any of these will have what we're looking for. Yeah, we may not be able to find it. It's not often used. The main thing you have to worry about is knowing that you can validate whether it's true or not, and then it can basically send out an error message, say this is trash. Please try again. But I don't think I'm going to find anyone that actually has it, to be honest. Yeah, probably not. Maybe next time I'll try to dig one up. But basically, it's like, again, if you have an IP and somebody enters like a string, it's going to complain about that, and that's what that's used for. But I have to look at examples because I haven't done that in a long time. There's a video that I could probably watch a 5-minute and then be able to give you guys an example of that. But I didn't prepare for that one, so I'm not going to give you an example of that one. If we're going to go back quickly to macros, you can actually insert macros and macros. So what we can do is, let's see how this would work in here. So we can go in here and then say, here we're going to, oopsies, we're going to, oopsie, gosh darn it. Control V, there we go. All right, so we can insert this in here. It says, insert this macro in here, which we know this one already gets the index. So in this first one, we can actually keep this in here. And we can say index for that guy. And then we can call it this way. But actually, no, we can't because we're calling the name of this guy. So let's do this. Well, it has 3 arguments it has to take. So trying to see how we can make this work. This might not be a good example to make this work for you guys, but let's see. Let's see. Or index equals, let's do that. To index. So let's see if we can have this work. Let's give this a shot. So let's go back. Let's go back. Actually, let's run this one here. So here, search index 3. So what we'll do is, we know the first one is going to be Cholu star, and then we're going to have I think it was the host was next, I believe. So we're going to say, no, I think source type, CSV, and then I think the host, Cholu. So if we run that, expand that. So then you see where it says index equals 1 here. We need to be able to pass something into that. And this is probably not the best example for me to give that, but let's see if we can. Because right now what we're doing is passing that other macro, but that other macro is saying that it needs to have a definition in it. So this probably would not work the way that I want it to work. What I would have to do then is basically just have search index and then not just have that as plain without having me to call something in here. So let's see if we did, because if we change this, it shouldn't work. So let's do open path star, save that. It's gonna basically complain that that macro should not exist. That's what it should complain about, but let's see. But no, it actually works still. Let's see if it will be able to, come on, expand for me. Okay, so we can make it work this way. I've never done it this way actually, but in that we basically define that macro in here by calling it. So instead of us having the 1 here, we basically defined the search index macro, which we called over here. And then we basically said, for this one argument, that's this guy over here, just put open path inside of it instead. And then, or make it an index, and we already have these 3 different arguments. Does that make sense? I know that might be a little bit confusing. So let me know. All right, so going back on this again, just for re-explanation purposes. We have a macro here called search underscore index with 1 argument. That 1 argument is going to be called index. And in here, whenever you run this, you have to specify the name of the index, not 1, the name of the index. So in here, we say search index 3, which now we're saying, okay, we're going to call this macro, but instead of using an argument in here that's already there, we're going to now place this value in the place of this argument that's supposed to be here. So now we no longer have to do, bring this guy all the way to here. We can just call that in here. So what we do then is basically just call this macro in itself innately. So we're basically doing search 3 in here with these 3 different values. But then what we do is we basically say open path star is going to be the index we want to search. So because of that, we don't want to use any type of argument itself here. We're just going to do open path star, and we're going to place this now inside of this macro by default. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I could try to re-explain it. All right, cool. Man, you guys are fast. You guys getting it. Cool. No one has questions. Cool, cool. All right. So that's the gist of macros, really. That's the main use cases you'll see with macros being used. You also have search commands that you can do. And search commands, it's basically using like custom Python to be able to create commands. So if you are good with Python or any coding languages, you can code that, and then you can put that with Splunk so that it can run these custom commands for you. So in here, it says I don't have permissions to edit it, which doesn't make sense since I'm admin. But anyway, it allows you to essentially like, tag what what scripts are running what and what it's doing there. So, all right, so that's how that works. Okay. Let's do monitoring console next, because I think I promised that from last class that we're going to do monitoring console. So let's go over that. All right. So last time I showed you guys that what the monitoring console does. So the monitoring console, just as a review, is basically.
Excuse me. I was trying to access the monitoring console. I couldn't have access to it. I don't know if I wasn't following the right step.
Yeah, you don't have rights in here. Only admin, like true admins. You guys are modified admins, so you don't have access here to do that.
Oh.
Yeah, but in your own environment, you can certainly look at yours as well, because it'll give you essentially these things.
I don't even have access to it.
On yours?
Yeah, I don't have it.
You should have it. There's no way.
I don't.
Settings, monitoring console?
Yeah, I don't.
There's no way. I mean, if you're admin, there's no way you don't have rights to the monitoring console.
I don't.
No, we don't.
On your own console, your own personal console.
I'll try to do it again.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like you install it as admin. You can. There's 100%. I've never seen that unless it's a bug or something. But as long as you're the admin that installed it and you didn't strip away any like permissions or anything like that, you should have definite access to the monitoring console.
I'll try it again.
Okay. So how many of you are facing that issue where you click settings and you can't go to your own monitoring?
I have it.
You say you're having that issue as well?
No, I have it. I can see it on my local machine.
Okay. Is there anyone else that can't see it? Okay. Yeah, let me know if for some reason you tried that and you can't, but yeah, that's by out of the box sample. You should definitely have that. All right, so as we're reviewing, all right, so let's continue. All right, so on your monitoring console, this basically shows you an overview of like your Splunk environment. So if you are in a distributed environment, so distributed meaning that you have multiple different components doing multiple different tasks, and you have a tab that basically is able to search for that. So yeah, you don't have you don't have uh, the monitoring console viewing all of your components by default. So in order to do that, I showed you guys last time, you had to go to settings, distributed search, and then add those peers as search peers. And what happens then is it allows your monitoring console, whatever that server ends up being, to be able to search the internal logs and to be able to do some other telemetry and introspection-based searches so that it can see what exactly is going on your console. So that's how this view comes about. The more you're able to add other hosts to be part of your distributed search, to be your search peers, that's when you're able to add them to be different parts here. And to be able to set that up, you just go to settings, general setup, and then typically it's going to be on the standalone mode. All you do is just click distributed mode. And then from there, it gives you the options to configure these other instances to be whatever. All right, so we're gonna go to, let's keep on overview tab. So on the overview tab at the bottom here, you have the ability to set alerts where you can enable or disable these alerts. So on here, let me see, let's say I wanted to enable. I typically don't enable these just because it uses up resources, and the monitoring console is a very expensive Splunk component. It runs a lot of searches to see how the health of your environment is doing, and because these searches are expensive in terms of they can be expensive in terms of the resource usage. You have to typically dedicate another instance to be your monitoring console, like a separate instance. So you wouldn't have your search head be your monitor console like I have here. You wouldn't normally have your custom master become a monitoring console as well, because your custom master and your monitor console both have very heavy duty tasks that they have to manage. So typically you want to make sure that those components are sort of separate. Same thing with your deployment server. Now, if you have to have it be dual roles, deployment server is typically the one that does double duty as a monitoring console, just because of its ability to not use a lot of resources when it does app pushouts and stuff. All right, so again here I can do enable and enable this alert. I can advance edit it and then do more drill downs into what this specific alert is doing and whatnot. So I have the options to do quite a few things there. So, sorry, excuse me. So that's the alert piece. And as these alerts fire off, they'll be based down here at the bottom for you. They'll also get fired off, and then you'll see them under your triggered alerts screen. Just like any alerts, you'll see them up here, but for the monitor console stuff, you will definitely see them down here. And you see here, you can manage triggered alerts. Where does that take you? Right to this page right here, triggered alerts. And then it takes you for this specific app, but if we wanted to see it for all apps, we can see that here. All right. And here you can see based upon the average kilobytes per second for the instance, and then you can see what's happening here. It takes you to a drill down of that. And we'll get into more of the drill downs in just a second. Go back, bro. Go. So then you can see your indexing rate. You can see the average. You can see the CPU utilization. You can see number of concurrent searches they're running. If this is really high, then you don't want to necessarily have that be the case. So I have a total of 4 concurrent searches they're running. Looks like I have one slave that has a license master warning. And this guy no longer Okay, that was Richards that has his. So he has 2 hard warnings. So something, Richard, you have to look into. I think we talked about it in our last class actually. All right, so that's that. That's pretty much that for the for this view, right? So the topology screen just basically gives you a general overview based upon connectivity. So it will show you based upon mappings. And I think we can, where's the view at that does that? There's another view that basically allows me to see the connectivity. It basically will point the search head to the indexer to show you that, hey, this guy is looking at this guy. And then you can sort of see that overall network topology that way. But that's what this topology view offers. All right. Any questions before I go on to the next tab? Okay. Summary. This actually seems to be new. I've actually never really seen this or used this as much. But this essentially gives you, looks like a summary of your, because it used to be just health check, I believe. A summary of, let's see, summary dashboard integrates health status information for the health report. Okay, so summary of your health status, pretty much. So you can add, looks like different deployments here. So it's pretty cool. I've actually never used this screen. It must be on the 8.0 versions because this is not on my earlier versions that I had. And then you can see here the checks to see how you're doing. So looks like we can increase it. We can see the average indexing. Okay, search latency, so no search latency. Skip searches. Okay, so this is pretty good screen. This is new. I've actually never used this. You can edit the panel. Looks like you can add more stuff. Average CPU, all indexers. Total hot bucket count. Oh, look at that. Look at that. What do you know? Okay, well, that's that. But it looks like this is pretty much what it'll be used for, but it's interesting. So health check. So health check basically, I ran this last time, but it basically checks the health of your network by looking at, what the? Oh, you can update the health check? Oh, look at that. Oh, sweet. Smoke is coming out with all sort of goodies now, man. This must be like an upgrade that's available now because let's upgrade. Let's see. I've never seen an upgrade of the health check.
I have a quick question. What's the main purpose of doing a health check?
The health of your environment.
Huh?
The health of your environment.
Oh, because I mean, I've worked in an environment where we always kind of like did a health check, but I never really quite got why we were doing that or why we had to report a health check.
So think about it like your car, right? When you go to get your car checked out for like tune-ups and whatever, it's the same way. You know, your car may be working fine for you, but underneath, there's certain things that may be, you know, wrong there. So you're gonna get checked out, and then you get like a full inspection of what's going on. So it's the same thing here essentially. You're doing a health check to make sure some of the things that you don't typically see. Splunk runs a search against all these things. It says, hey, there's some things here that could be sort of wonky. You may want to take a look at that. And that's the main reason we do the health checks for Splunk or for any application, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. And then we can click the start, and then it'll go through the. So these are basically like some of the standard health check items. So if you want to check like indexing status, missing forwarders, if your data is separated based on the source types, right? If you have excessive physical memory usages, your KV store, if there's issues with it, license warnings. Let's see, learn source types. So the learn source types looks like it's an issue for me, which remember you guys saw that also, where Splunk tries a lot to learn a lot of different source types that no one's naming. So you see, set up whatever too personal, too small. So all these too small stuff that I mentioned before, Splunk is saying, hey, bro, I don't really know what the heck this is, and this person didn't set a source type, so I'm just going to say, this is what I think it is, So it tries to label it, tries to create a source type and extraction for it, and if it gets close to it, it does. If not, it just says, hey, man, this is what I came up with because you didn't tell me anything. So if you ever see this too small and stuff like that, and you see this when you run your health check, that's basically what Splunk is saying, that, hey, you got to fix something, bro, or ma'am. All right, so next screen, instances. So as you would guess, these are your instances that you can see here. So everything in here is basically based on the instances that your Splunk instance is connected to. So if you wanted to check this using a generic search, say we go to run a search, what we'll do then is do rest command, and we'll do services. So rest basically allows you to connect to endpoints live as it's happening. So rest services, server info, and then let's do Splunk underscore server equals, say star. So then you see it gives me both. By default, if I don't specify nothing, it's going to give me local. But then when I specify, give me everything with my Splunk underscore server, which is just basically saying the name of the Splunk server can be anything. It gives me what you see on this screen here, these two instances. So here, if we scroll to the right, so we see here the name of it, prodopenpathus.com, and then prod indexer. Then it tells me what GUIDs I got, what GUIDs I got. All right. Then green, oh, this guy's red. What is going on with this guy? So something's going on with this guy. Why he's red, I'm not sure. Not quite sure, but something's going on with my indexer is red. So I may have to look at that later to try to fix that. So something's going on. All right. Well, that's that. So that's what you can view here, the instances that are connected. And then you have the option to look at, the resource utilization, search activity, all this stuff, which is on these different tabs here. So it's just like a link that takes you there. All right, so let's start off with indexing. We'll go with performance first. So it goes performance, so indexing, we'll go back to performance, and then you basically have a chance to look at the performance by instance, and then you can look at it by deployment. By instance basically means just, of course, one instance, one server. By deployment is if you have multiple different indexers set up, you can look at how things are across the board with that. So let's start off with instance. So then you have the ability to select all indexers. If you have different groups, you can select different groups. And here we have just one because I have only set up one indexer, and that's how that stuff is done. And then you can see here, we have pipeline set selection policy. So this is basically like how the pipeline is flowing. Averaging indexing rate, kilobytes per second, 36 kilobytes. Which is not much at all, but hey. And then here, typically when your indexer is blocked or has blocked queues. So blocked queues basically mean that something is blocking your indexer or one of your Splunk components from doing what it needs to do. So these are the Splunk pipelines. So you have your parsing pipeline, your merging pipeline, your typing pipeline, and your indexing pipeline. So as your data comes in, this is what it's showing here. So data comes in TCP, UDP, whether you're tailing a file, and an executable is running, or the first input, first output that's occurring. Splunk basically, the first thing it does is it tries to parse that data. So as it tries to parse that data, what's going to do is going to do UTF-8, so it's going to identify what type of file type it is. It's going to do line breaking, and it's going to attach headers to that file. So it does this as soon as the data comes in, it tries to start parsing it. And then what it does then is it starts merging it. So basically, it aggregates it to be able to utilize the different, I guess, key values that it needs. So it basically tries to associate like, a certain pair with another pair. And then it tries to merge the lines if there's line merging that needs to be done, post your line break. And then any other time extraction and stuff like that that needs to be done, it'll do that as well. And then it goes into the typing queue. So the typing queue that is basically where you have like your regexes. So oftentimes you'll have this queue fill up early, and then you have backfill queue. So basically, as you're doing maybe a bunch of regex on a big file, Splunk starts getting a lot busier and a lot busier, and then this number starts going up and up and up, and then it starts affecting this number, and then finally affects this number, and then once it affects this number, it's really bad. That means no data is going to be coming in until this gets cleared up. So that's what the queues represent essentially. Then the last queue over here, as we can see, is the indexing when Splunk actually, moves this data to disk. So it basically puts this out to be wherever it needs to go to write that down. Any questions about that? Okay. So customer says, hey, I have issues with my indexing. This is the first tab you should come to if you have access to your monitoring console. If it's a thing of like global indexing issues, meaning that not just one indexer, but a few indexers you have are having problems, come here, start checking out those things by the instance and see what's going on there. So then you can start looking at, how things are backed up and what issues you're having, and basically where the queues are at. And then maybe you could slowly start deleting certain things that are causing the queue blockages. So whether it's like stripping out maybe a couple of regexes that happen at index time, maybe instead you want it to be at search time, or a couple of replacements that you don't necessarily need to happen right away. It can replace a little bit later. So those things work well hand in hand to give you what you need to troubleshoot stuff. So we have down here historical charts of indexing per. Right now we're looking at the source type. We can do by index, we can do by host, or the source itself. And then this will basically give you a breakdown of how things are being split essentially into different categories. So by index, so this index right here has, looks like is that 74% of logging, and this one has, I guess, 7% for that specific day. And then you can break it by source type again, host, or source as well to be able to do that. And then, of course, you have the ability to drill down into it if you need to, and to be able to see exactly just what you're looking for. All right, so this basically correlates with what you see up here for your pipeline. So whenever you don't see any blockages here, that means there's no blockages here. But if you see blockages here, more than likely you'll see it here, but sometimes it may have not got to this point yet. So that's something to also keep in mind. So this screen right here gives you basically all the different queues that are either blocked or could be blocked or have issues. Then we'll go to maximum to see where we have issues, if any. I do see some numbers there. So a lot of stuff are very minimal. So 4.4 blockages. When you start seeing this bar go all the way up on any of these lines, that means something is blocking it somewhere. So you need to fix that before you start just, restarting Splunk or whatever. All right, so I'm done with this screen. Any questions?
Can you go back to that play on the screen again, please?
This one right here?
Yeah. Well, you said if anything, if those bars are going up.
Yeah. So right now we see 4.4 here, right? So that's you don't really get to see much here. The thing is, so if this bar were to rise up in like a cone format, like one of these areas, that means that there's a blockage. So what you'll see typically is like This is exactly what you'll notice.
Oh, okay. I've seen this before.
Yep. So these are the block cues that happen.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a constant block. You're not getting anything blocked all across. But when you see 100% and it's all the way up like this, that's something to worry about. When you see something like this, that means you're getting intermittent blockages. So it's usually correlates to either you don't have enough throughput, or your IOPS is too slow, or Splunk is sending a lot of data at these specific times for whatever reason, and your indexers aren't able to catch up. Maybe you have other reports, you have a whole bunch of other things that the indexers are doing. So that's what you typically see when you see this screen, or what that means.
Okay, so say in an enterprise setting, how do you troubleshoot these? How, like, what's the steps do you follow?
In terms of what?
Say for instance a parsing queue now, like that number one, and the bars are high and there's a problem. How do you start troubleshooting something like that? So
Yeah, internal logs would be your best bet. So internal logs will tell you where there are issues, and it'll tell you usually what those issues could possibly be. So in here, so we do 90th percentile, processing queues. And then right here, you can start seeing like what exactly is being spiked up. So like if you're saying like the parsing queue, whatever, if that are spiking, go to your internal logs, and then you'll see some message about it. And if you don't, for whatever reason, you can turn Splunk into debug mode, start it on debug mode, and then you'll see that message.
okay, so basically that message appear like those that message portal in the Splunk app, right?
In the Splunk internal index.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so that's the end of that screen. All right, so let's go to performance now and go to advanced. Okay, so now that's done. So here we see the thread activity. So this is like Splunk's forking itself into multiple different threads. So when it forks itself, basically means a split, and it allows itself to run a whole bunch of other different types of functions to be able to do whatever it needs to do. So you can see here there's thread activities, high-low, and then you can see there's some consistency over here. So yeah, that's something to also notice. And then down here, the ingestion pipeline activity by pipeline set. So these are the different pipelines. So change manager, FIFO, file in, file out, or not file in, first in, first out, and then exec, then dev null. So these are all pipeline activities that you should keep track of. So if you start seeing your data fill up to 100%, like we saw over, oh shit, I just closed it. But as we saw in the that one screen, what you'll do then is come to this screen over here. So instead of going to indexing performance and going to the instance screen, basically allows you to pop in now and look at this in an advanced format, or advanced screen rather. All right. Okay. So busiest ingestion pipeline sets. So again, this will tell you what exactly is the busiest out of your pipelines. So it looks like indexing is the one for me, which makes sense because got a lot of data that comes through one point. And then busiest ingestion, so it tells you based on that by the timeline when you get busiest. So this is all something to pay attention to from the first screen. And come to this screen if you need to dive a little deeper. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this. The rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. Estimated CPU usage per processor, and then aggregate CPU seconds spent per indexer process activity, and then regex for profiling set source type. So you can set that maximum. Then what you see is these get populated down here. Okay, all right. Any questions about this so far? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna divert from this a bit, and we're gonna finish some more of these next time. So actually, before I do that, let me just show you guys what deployment looks like. So deployment, it looks almost the same. The only thing that's different is that you get essentially everything by deployment. And then if it's multiple different hosts that you have coming in, you can split it by the host. So all this is basically my prod indexer stuff is looking against. And then look at the heat map to see, how things are heating up over time, based upon a specific setting. And then sorry, I just blanked for a second, my eyes. All right, so in here we're looking at deployment wide average, for instance, indexing rate. So if you feel like you're having slow indexing for whatever reason, this is the screen to come to be able to look at that. Typically you want to see of course, everything that's consistent, but once things start becoming less consistent, then yeah, something we need to look at. Okay, so that's that. And then this is another one for the Q fill issue. So you can look directly at here and then you can see what the Q fill ratio is, sort of like on that first screen that we were at. All right, so let's finish there and let's do a couple of searches before we finish up today. So if for some reason you have let's do make results, right? Then let's do annotate, equals true. And then let's say if I wanted to fill all of this values that don't have anything, what would I do? Anyone? I have specific fields here that don't have values, but I want this to have a value. What would I do?
Eval.
Eval is one way, but there's another command that's easier. Let's say we want it to be the same values across the board. Starts with fill null. So fill null basically says fill the value of anything that we want here. So in this case, we're going to say, we don't have it, bro. So then what it does then, it basically fills everything that doesn't have a value that's blank, fills that with the fill null. But fill null doesn't just work with everything. You can do specific fields, and I believe you can do multiple fields as well. That way you can include and exclude what you don't want. Any questions about that command?
Let's say, what if for the host you wanted to say something else? How will you do that?
So multiple ways. So you can do a different value or a different fill null. So it'd be here. Same exact thing.
Oh, so it can be on that same line with the.
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay.
Else is counts that, but not that I know of. All right. And then we're gonna do stream stats. So let's do stream stats, right? So let's do make notes. And then we're gonna do index equals. Well, let's do index equals blah. Then we're gonna say counts 400 or 5,000, right? So there's 5,000. So that's the number of times that, or number of events we have here. So if we wanted to, for some reason we didn't know we had the count. In this case, you do. But if we wanted to have that count, we can do that here. So let's say annotate also equals true. So then we're gonna give all this, and then we're gonna say make MV. We're gonna expand this right here. It's actually already made MV, so let's just do MV expand. And then we're gonna say Splunk underscore server group. Now each of these is gonna be its own unique value. So then we want to say, okay, I want to see. Let's make a source type, right? So we're gonna say eval if I'm sorry, not if eval. Let's do host equals we're gonna do host equals if if Splunk underscore server group oopsies. Equals to let's just do this guy. Then call it call the host admin. Actually, we'll call this criminal. Otherwise, call it so the host field is going to be if the Splunk underscore server group is equals to the DMC group right here, the value for this field is going to be called criminal. Otherwise, it's going to be called innocent. So if we run this, we should see it. See, there's a whole bunch of innocents here. Then let's see if we've got any criminals. So if Splunk underscore server group equals DMC. Oh, I forgot this right here. So that's why that didn't work. All right, there we go. So you see criminal, innocent, so it keeps alternating, right? Let's say we want to see how many times we have the host. So we can do stream stats count by host. So then what it'll do then, it'll go through each of your fields and then it'll count up the values. So it says, hey, this is the first time I see criminal for the value host. This is the second time I saw it. This is the third time I saw innocent, fourth time. And it'll keep going, down, so on and so forth. So this is very important when you want to see the number of times specific value may occur for a field. So this is just an example here, but let's say we were to do index equals, let's use our macro. So actually it might be confusing. So let's just do regular. So we'll do index equals main. And then we want to see the number of times this empty index is report is run. So we can do empty index report as run. Then we can do stream stats count. So what this does then, it basically does a count of everything that's happening. So it says counter populates for us the way that we want it to populate. All right, so here it is, so you guys can see that. So basically it goes through each of these events, and then it does a stream stats count of every time it saw this right here. And then it basically says it's going to go all the way up to 3014. So that's what you'll see there. But in this case, that's very useless. We don't really care about that. We want to see something that's more practical, right? So somebody says, I want to see the number of times this IP occurred in my environment. So that's when you would do, let's say, let's do index equals main source type. Log. So let's look at something that's more practical, and we'll be done in just a few minutes actually. All right, so let's say we want to see based upon like the event codes or something. So this stuff is typically already going it out for you, but if you wanted to see it for whatever reason, it's not showing up the way that you wanted. So that's what the stream stats would do side by side. So if we were to do table, let's do stream stats count. I believe we can do eval. Let's do count name equal to Clovis as account name. May complain. Oh, complain about the second lack of thingy over here. All right, so it basically does a count now of how many times the account name for Clovis was basically parsed out of here. So in here, we don't necessarily need to do that because we already got the count over here. But if you were doing a comparison for something that you tabled and you wanted to see that, you want to have a dashboard of that, that's when you'll have something like this be handy. So we're going to do table, I don't want to do table star, do account name. Then let's do account domain, right? So we can do something like this. So then it'll show you where the account name equals Clovis. It's the first count here. Then this one for Clo, it's the first time this one's happened. So let's see, and then the second time for Clovis, third time, so on and so forth, and it keeps going down. So then it looks like, wow. Well, all of these will make sense because Clovis is computer, so that's what's grabbing. So this is essentially how you can get the stream stats to work this way. And you can do like a whole bunch of other like variables as well. I think you can do like a like as well here. So like, and then the like function basically says it needs to be something like that's similar. So the way that would work is, I think we can do account name, and I believe it's the first flag. Then we have to do I have to close this off as well. So what we'll do here, I think it needs to be a % for this to work. It's been a while since I did this, but let's see if this works for us. All right, cool. So now this essentially does the same thing where it does a like. So anything that has like a Clovis, whatever, it'll basically try to track that down and say, hey, count with it. And we're going to do eval where it's like, instead of doing an exact match, it's going to be eval where it's like it. And it tries to match that. So yeah, that's another use case for that. Let's say by, I don't know. Count domain or something, right? See how this works out for us. All right, cool. So you see it's less here. So then now it's doing like a 1-to-1. So Clovis, work, PC, personal group. And this one's Chloe happened first time. This one is personal PC. So, and it keeps trying to track every one of these as it's occurring. That specific time, it tracks that and continues to go on with that. But then it has to have a like of Clovis and Jang to be able to be counted as that. All right, any questions? Okay. The last command we'll go over is just quickly. It's going to be field summary. So it's going to be very quick. So field summary basically gives you the number of times your fields actually appear in your events. So you can see here this when event log and source, I have a combine of 24. But let's say you want to do like a total of how your events are happening, and you want it for all your events. So do fields. So if you run that, it gives you a summation statistically of the number of times your fields occur, and then it breaks down into other different variables, standard deviations from your one value to the rest of the other values, and then the mean that it'll get for that, the maximum, is it an exact match, the distinct counts, and then the counts itself. So that's how that works. All right, I'm going to stop here for today. I think we went over a lot. We've done recapped on apps. We also talked about macros. And then we went into the monitoring console, and then we finally finished out here. Next class, if anyone, just by so happens to want to present a dashboard, let me know. You can start off by presenting your dashboard. And your assignment was to install a couple of apps on your local machine as well. Did anybody install any apps and play with it?
Yeah, install some.
Okay. What'd you install?
I don't remember it. I think I remember the name. I gotta check.
Okay, so the next assignment then is going to be for you guys to go through the monitoring console on your local instance. I would like for you guys to set up a folder, another folder, or another full instance of Splunk. It doesn't really matter, somewhere else, and then have that point to your local instance of Splunk to become the a distributor. So basically, your instance of Splunk should be using that other server you set up to be a distributed search, so that it can have a monitoring console to look across the data and what's happening on that other console. So just to recap again on that is create another instance, go to distributed search peers, add that instance as a new search peer here, and make you have the ports and all that other stuff open, and then be able to just add that to your monitoring console. To add it to your monitoring console, all you do is go to monitoring console, settings, general setup. Once this is already set up for you, it's going to populate here, and then it'll come up as new. You have to edit it and then save it, and then it'll basically change to configured. So just try that for the next class, and If not, at least try to dashboard something out. Any questions? Check, make sure. Let's go. 99 cents. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, actually, I have a question, sir.
Sure.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, give me just a second. Let's see here. Stop my sharing. And you have the ability to share now. Long day.
So I'm having troubles. I was trying to do this right here, the dashboard that links to another dashboard, so I can drill down to it. But anytime I click on this one and it takes me to this dashboard, there's no data populated. I don't know if the search is wrong or the tokens are wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, remember we talked about did you add your thing that you're supposed to add?
Yeah, I added it right here, the user, and then I even added a time picker as well.
What's the token for the user?
Star.
No, that's not the token. What's the token right there?
Right here, user.
Yep, so the token's called user. So is that what you pass down? So if you go back to your user dashboard, is that the token you pass down to it?
Oh.
If you click edit, yep. And then you go to your drill down. You pass student as the token. But is that what's used in here though?
The search?
Yeah, is your thing called user in here?
Yeah, user equals star.
Okay.
And then for here, the search here is index equals underscore audit, action equals granted, or action equals denied. Oh, gotta say user equals.
So if it's the student, so you just got to pass in student as the token. That's the issue here.
Oh, instead of user.
Right, because so X this, and then click the user over here. And then best practice is never capitalize your token, usually lowercase.
Lowercase, okay.
That's the label. That's the label. You can keep that to whatever you want that to be.
Oh, okay, it's just the token.
All right, and then save that. All right, and then at the top, save that. All right, and then go to your dashboard and then make sure you change that back to what it was before. No, your drill down, I believe. Okay, and save. All right, click that and see. All right, so now it's passed. All right, so now you just got to fix your search, whatever your search is doing.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. All right, any additional questions? All right, so there's no questions. I'm gonna go enjoy my Lakers. Hopefully win. They don't collapse in the fourth quarter. You guys do your homework. Answer. I only see a few people attempting to answer the questions. I pose these questions because these are interview questions you'll get. So if you don't know the answer, research, Google, whatever it is you got to do. Try to figure out what it is. And another good place I was going to mention to you guys is go to Splunk Answers. If you have a question on there, you say, man, I don't get what the heck they're talking about, because even sometimes I don't, put that in the chat or in our, in our WhatsApp chat, and ask that question, because probably, 4 or 5 times out of 10, you're going to run into that issue at some point in time in your Splunk career. So that's literally how I got better at Splunk, is by going to Splunk Answers and trying to answer a lot of those questions, either for people or I would create a question for myself once I answered it, and then I would post it on there. So go there if you don't have questions that you can think about, and come back with questions. But that's it for today. I'm going to keep you guys brief for tonight, and we'll catch you guys next class.